Something is wrong. Look at the biz. They were too good for our first dimmer. He's planning something, inform Bogdanov immediately.
Allô?
Bogdanov, it's happening.
Et did it? Et built?
Sit made another post-brass storage.
Bad shit.
Alright. Been a while, eh? Over half a year since my last video, but things have been moving. Honestly, I knew the channel would get traffic, but I didn't expect it to go this quickly. The channel's been moving, Discord's been moving, even though I haven't uploaded in months. But hey, subscribers are still going up despite that. But really, it's been great to see so far. Thanks to everyone for the support, it has been absolutely tremendous, despite the occasional inactivity. We're finally here though, by far my most impressive storage system yet, resolving more or less every single issue with the previous systems I've had, less wasted vaults, 0 redstone links so I can have as many as I want in one place, vertical tiling for more space efficiency, safety locks, and quite a few other features I've been wanting to add. There's a lot of tech to see here, so grab a drink, sit back, and let's get started. Also, I'm not gonna lie, Chief, I made like half of this redstone over 2 months ago. I don't even remember how half of this works. So let's get into the vaults. Here's the main module. And it's a bit complicated. So we're gonna have to break it down piece by piece, and I'm gonna walk you through why we have the vaults that we have and what the heck all these bits and bobs are, what they're for, what they do. So essentially what we have here is we have 5 vaults, but they're really separated into 4 vaults here, and you could think of this as symbolically 4 vaults, which sounds a bit weird, but basically all that's going to happen is this vault and this vault are going to swap positions. It's going to rotate, it's going to swap, rotate, swap, and it does that for each 4 of the vaults. Now, why do we do this? Why do we need to do this? Well, to give an example, to give an illustration, let's go over to a smaller and simpler example. So here's our example. Let's take a look at what we have here. So essentially, you have your 2 storage containers. In this case, it's 2 barrels. They could be 2 of anything. It could be 2 chests. They could be 2 different storage containers as well, although you'll generally want to have 2 of the same. The reasons for that are a little complicated, but just take my word for it. But we have our little assortment of wood here, and there's a problem we're trying to solve by using this mechanism. And the problem we're trying to solve is that I need to sort through every singular item in this barrel, every single one. And to do that, all I'm going to do is use a sequenced gear shift and a mechanical bearing to swap the positions of these 2 barrels. I want this one here, I want that one there, so that every single item will pass through. It'll pass by this funnel, which is passing by a toolbox. So only the spruce logs will go into the toolbox. So let's give it a little run here. I hit the button. Watch carefully. The oak planks pass. The first spruce logs pass. And the spruce logs I wanted to go into the toolbox go into the toolbox. Now, some people may be wondering, well, Scythe, why do we go through all this trouble to swap the two items when we could just have a belt that takes the items out, runs them past the filter, and puts them back in? Well, the problem with that is storage containers follow a bookshelf-like logic. Alright? If I take out, let's say we have a few more items here. Say we have a few more items. If I take out the first item, now this becomes the first item. So if a funnel is removing an item, it would look for the first item, and the first item is now the stripped spruce logs. If I take this out, this becomes the first item, and so on and so forth. And this gets worse if you're not dealing with stacks, because imagine you're only dealing with a couple items at a time. So you put an item in, you take an item out. You put an item in, you take an item out. You put an item in, and look, the slot never changes, right? We're stuck with this spruce wood, and you can really, all you have to think about it like is as if you're working with a bookshelf. You take the first book out, now the second book becomes the first book on the bookshelf, and so on and so forth. And that's why we have this mechanism, and that's what the mechanism achieves. So back here at the main system, let's dig a little bit more into what these vaults are doing. What is all this circuitry here? What is all this doodads and whatnots? What are they doing and what are they achieving? Well, it's a bit complicated, so let's give a quick run, just for example's sake, of what happens. This is the restock switch right here. This is the restock switch. And what is the restock switch doing? Well, I'll break these panels off real quick. And essentially, we have an extender. This is just a little safety mechanism, a safety switch, if you will. This is an extender going into a toggle latch, going into a gantry shaft. Now, bear with me here, bear with me. Going into an observer that powers another gantry shaft that powers the observers over here, which runs a signal along observers. These observers double as a delay to then activate, and I have to go into spectator mode here to then activate. And look at this block is going to send a power to this smooth stone block, which is going to carry the power, again, bear with me, this is very compact redstone, into the sequenced gear shift, right? So we have an observer going in, carrying a signal to an observer, which is going into the smooth stone, which is going into the sequenced gear shift. This is our safety system. Now, why do we have a safety system here? What is this delay for? Well, this is ensuring when you push the button, it pauses the inputs, so you can't spam the system with inputs. If you spammed the system with inputs, this would be swapping while it's rotating, and if that happened, guess what would happen? The vault would run into another vault, and it'd just destroy an entire vault. It'd be reduced to atoms, just like this clip here. And look what I get. I get one full rotation. But watch this. Watch what happens. I move the speed to 16 RPM, 16 rotations per minute. I'm broken. Why? Why is it like this? God, I hated that. But anyway, just in case that fails somehow, we doubled that up with a safety system so that, bear with me here. So that, take a look at this, additional safety system. This smart observer has a filter. And I didn't even know you could do this. It has a filter with a deny list to deny secondary linear chassis, right? And why do we deny secondary linear chassis? Well, we do that so that there's no signal unless the chassis isn't there. And if the chassis isn't there, it sends out a signal. And what does that signal do? Let's come down. it brings it down to this smooth stone, which powers this clutch, which means that these vaults cannot rotate if these two vaults are swapping. So if this vault is swapping to this position, these vaults cannot rotate. Just a safety measure to ensure that your system does not blow up in the middle of running. But let's hit it. Let's see what it does. And what it's going to do is it's going to run 4 times, right? 1, right? 1, and it's going to swap, right? 2, swap, and it's going to keep doing this. It's going to do this 4 times. It's going to do it for each vault. And I'm going to show you the logic here. So here's the logic for what's telling the vaults to stop rotating after 4 turns. And it's dead simple. Dead simple. Let's go into spectator so I can actually get where I need to be. This radial chassis is extended just enough to grab this chiseled stone brick. And this chiseled stone brick is detected by this smart observer, which is set to detect a chiseled stone brick. And when a chiseled stone brick is there, it carries a redstone signal to this extender, which means for the next 4 seconds, right? For the next 4 seconds, it's going to carry a signal out, and that signal is going to block the sequenced gear shift signal. So it's going to block the signal that says rotate these vaults. And it's very simple, very easy. You could use this for all sorts of things. But that's what the circuit there is for. And that's what's telling it to only rotate 4 times. So here we are at the toolbox mechanism, and it's very simple. I really don't know much what to call it. It's just a set of linear chassis that carries these toolboxes and assembles them and moves them as a singular unit. So you could have a bunch of modules all stacked up and to the right, and all those toolboxes will be assembled into this one contraption, which goes to the back here. And let me show you something. In the back here, it goes to this portable storage interface, which interfaces with this funnel, so that when items are being swapped between this vault and that vault, they pass through here and thus pass by every single toolbox that you may have connected to your storage system. So you can have a toolbox 10 modules down to the right, and if it passes here, it'll go into the toolbox over there. It's brilliant, it's wonderful, and all it's using is this. So if I hit this button, just for an example, it assembles it, moving it to the left, and it even doubles as an additional safety for this button here, so that if this will be moved as long as the machine is running, and if the machine is running, you can't hit the button again. Just for rock solid safety, to ensure that hopefully, I sincerely hope, nothing breaks while you're using it. But that's all it is, and let's check out the item loading in the back. Now here's the item loading mechanism, and it's really like the front mechanism. It's quite simple. It's just a gear shift that pushes a mechanical piston, and it's just a line of redstone powered by this lever. So I hit this lever, it powers this redstone, and if you look, the piston has pushed this and everything connected into it to be assembled into a singular stationary contraption. Now what's the purpose of this and what does it do? Well, first of all, I know this looks a bit peculiar, but this portable storage interface is interfacing with this one, and it's going through the brass belt funnel. But the funnel is connecting to this. This funnel is connecting to this, which is drawing items from here. It's just positioned very questionably, but I assure you, it does work. I assure you. And what this does is this contraption actually has its own inventory, thanks to this barrel that I've placed in each mechanism. So each mechanism has a barrel Now, why is there a barrel in each mechanism? Well, so that it can hold items, so that the items can be dispensed from the portable storage interface to this funnel, to this depot, to these 4 funnels, via the mechanical arm. So I'm going to give a quick demo so I can give a better illustration. So right now, all I'm doing is I'm running some oak planks. I have the funnel limited to 1, and I'm running some oak planks through the system. So they go along the belt, all the way to the back, into the funnel, into, of course, our favorite portable storage interface, which goes into the stationary contraption. Since the stationary contraption has its own inventory, they can be dispensed through here onto the depot, and the mechanical arm grabs the items from the depot and places them into each funnel in a round-robin fashion so that it goes into that vault, into that vault, into that vault, into that vault, and so on. This means it gets a nice even distribution. And it's not the fastest, but honestly, it's going to be perfectly fine because the contraption itself has some capacity. So you can throw a bunch of items in, it'll fill up into the contraption, and then it'll start to be distributed by the mechanical arm. So no problem there. Gives us a nice, clean, simple, straightforward way to distribute our items into each vault. Now that covers all the main redstone elements of the build, but there's a few miscellaneous elements that I'll just run in through before I start getting into the basic usage and operation of the storage system and how you'd integrate it with your builds. But let's get into this first. So just a few miscellaneous features. The first of which is I've taken some steps to attempt to reduce lag. So a great example of this is if we see this smart observer, this is going to look for items in this vault. If there's items in the vault, it's going to send out the rapid pulse. If you don't know what rapid pulse is, go check out the last storage video. But here it is, here's the rapid pulse. Let's get into spectator here. And this is sending a rapid pulse to this funnel. Now, the reason for that, and the reason it's set up like this, is it will only be turned on if it needs to be running, if there's items in the vault. So, just for illustration's sake, if it was searching for a vault, it would be on, and it would be sending the rapid pulse, and it would be triggering the lock, it would be triggering all the systems, and then once it's empty, once there's no more items to be sorted through, it turns off, and it's not running anymore. That means that when your machine is just idly running, it's not running all these very rapid pulses on in your chunks, slowing down the world or anything like that. It's going to be much smoother, much less passive lag from if you have quite a few of these set up. So that's the first one. The next one is this little doodad here. This is an example. There's a couple of these, but this is, I think, a good example worth pointing out. Is what is this clutch here? Why is this here? Well, there's a very precarious issue, right? So I'm using this gantry shaft to carry a signal between this observer and this observer so it can go up, down, and in all sorts of directions, right? That way, that allows you to tile the modules vertically, right? Otherwise, you'd be stuck horizontally. But an issue I ran into is very strange. If this is receiving pulses, even if they're not that fast, just pulses, bam, 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 it'll break. It'll just break, and this whole line will break. And it's the strangest thing. I have no clue why it happens, what it's for, but it breaks. So I just set up a clutch here, so that if it's running the signals through, it pauses the clutch, and this doubled as an additional safety mechanism to tell the mechanical arm not to load items if items are currently being ran from one vault to another vault. And this actually was very useful, because if you've swapped this vault and this vault, right, if you've swapped them, this one's empty, that one's full, and if it starts putting items in here while the mechanical arm is putting items in here, it's going to be too full to empty out this vault completely, and you'd run into all sorts of issues. So this is a great example of a double-purpose safety mechanism that's preventing both overflow on the vault side, and it's also preventing breaking on the shaft side. So it's a double purpose safety mechanism, very important. And there's a couple safety mechanisms around, but I hope this helps you understand the redstone. Perhaps if you want to modify it or you want to make your own modules, it's just a little bit to help you understand. And of course, the last miscellaneous redstone piece is just the item request system, which is just this button here, and all it's doing, the only thing it's doing, is it's bringing the toolboxes in, and it's moving them to this funnel. So you could filter this to any item in any of your modules in terms of the toolboxes, right? So you could have a toolbox miles away, right? And you could request the item right here at the funnel. You put the item in the filter, you hit the request button, it immediately assembles the front with the toolboxes, connects it via these PSIs in the back, and it'll just drop however many items you set it to. So that's all it is. Very straightforward, very simple. And I'm sure you could utilize this for modules, right? If you wanted to somehow implement some sort of feature in a module, you could use this front contraption to be a sort of a universal way of grabbing items. So just think about it. Something to think about, something to consider. Now let's get into the basic usage of the storage system. So the first thing we have to cover are schematics and just placing the schematics down. So the first thing to note is you're going to have two schematics. You're going to have the core, you're going to have the module, right? So you're only going to have one core, then you're going to have a module per however many modules you wish to have. So let's start with the core. Core, just simple schematic. Make a note that you always have to place it at the bottom left of your system. So if you plan to expand it in this direction, the core has to be all the way in the bottom left. So we place that down. And another thing to make note of is, let's say you want to place the schematic somewhere like here, but you want to rotate it. What happens if you rotate it, and get a look at this, this rotation speed controller, because we've rotated it, is turning the wrong way, which means the front module with the toolboxes is perpetually turned into a contraption. So what you have to do, if this is the case, is you have to turn it around so that instead of spinning, let's see, which way is it? So that it will be, in fact, in the bottom. That way, and you can just, an easy way to tell, you just come to the front and see if these are assembled or not. If they're assembled, you gotta turn this the other way. You gotta turn it the other way. And there's a few bugs with schematics. Schematics are a bit buggy, unfortunately. They've been a bit buggy for a while now, but they're still a bit buggy. So keep that in mind. And the next thing is you have your core right here. And this time it was placed in the normal orientation, so it's fine. And the next thing we gotta do is we have to line up the module. So look carefully, it has to be perfectly lined up. And you just look at the front here and you can see this secondary linear chassis is lined up. So you just put it there, place it down, and this is where, again, we're gonna be running into the bugs with schematics. You see the vault is all weird and buggy looking? Well, unfortunately, vaults don't get placed properly by schematics. So we have to break the vault, and then place a block back, and usually that fixes it. So we break it, place, and it fixes the vault. Break, place, fixes the vault. We have to do that for every vault. This is extremely painful in cases where you have massive schematics with a lot of vaults, but you know, this one's not too bad. It's 5 vaults per module. It's just something you'll have to live with until they fix this bug. When are they gonna fix this bug? I don't know if they're gonna fix the bug. I'm gonna be real with you, Chief. This bug has been here since I started using schematics in Create, since the day they've added it, pretty much. So, I wouldn't count on it getting patched anytime soon. But those are the the things you gotta note with placing the schematics. And the next thing to note about the basic usage is just putting the items in, very straightforward. Let's turn this on. And when it's running, there's a toggle that toggles item loading, and that's the toggle that assembles the back. So let's see if we can get this in view here. Yep, it's assembled. And then we throw our items in here. Grab some oak, for example. There goes our items into the system. That's it. That's all you gotta know for loading items into the storage. Now for requesting an item, let's grab, I think I put this in. If the items will have to get into the toolbox. So let's run a quick restock. So once our items are loaded in to our toolboxes as we have them sorted, we can then request an item from here. So I can filter this to the oak log, and then I hit the request item button, and it says filter funnel. So we would use, if you didn't have the item on hand, take a look at this. Let's say we didn't have that. Take a look at this. We can go here, and we can grab, this is crazy, we can grab items from the just enough items menu. So all you have to do, you just click, hold it down, don't let go, and drag over to the filter. You don't have to have the item. You can filter items you don't even have. Put that in the filter, put the filter in, hit the request item button, and look at that, we have our oak wood. You don't even need the item. You can just, it works for anything. You can do any item that you can pull up in the just enough items menu. You can just click and drag over. It's the greatest thing. But that is how you request your items, and that is all you need to know about using the storage. The only other thing you need to know is when you put items into the storage, every now and then, to refill the toolboxes in the front, you hit the restock button, which is the button right there, hence the restock switch sign. That's it. That's all you need to know. Congratulations. Still here, huh? Thanks for watching this long. Truth be told, I meant to get this video done a lot sooner, but life has been getting in the way. Videos have been doing well despite my inactivity, and I'm planning to start uploading on a real schedule soon. Who knows, maybe I'll be able to do it full time eventually. Regardless, thank you for the support on the channel. I've been able to get monetized on YouTube, which is going to help a lot in making more content, but also it's been great to talk with all of you. I was genuinely surprised to see a lot of us share very similar interests, which has been a large topic of discussion in the Citadel with things like Redstone, Linux, and other topics that we have in common. Assuming all goes well, the next video will be diving into attempting to make an actually useful vehicle. After that, I may try automating one of my more commonly used items like observers, but I also wanted to cover some topics I think are important, which you'll see soon, and if you're in the Citadel, you may know about even sooner. Regardless, I hope to see you again soon, and be careful out there.